So in the last two videos, we talked about one of the powers you have to make a difference that's right there in that circle of control. It is how you treat the people around you. Now we're going to get back to that middle circle, how you grow your power to ask people to do things and have them say yes. And so one piece of that is actually what we just talked about, which is staying in your social brain. People enjoy connection and curiosity and creativity, and they tend to get inspired and energized by it. Incidentally, this is why making art is often such a big part of social movements. But there are other pieces as well. And as I've mentioned before, it's just really critical. I cannot say enough. Power comes from relationships. You grow your power when you make asks of other people and they do it. And in the process, they grow their skills and relationships so they have more people we can ask to do more things. If you do everything by yourself, or you are not growing your skills, or you are not growing relationships, your power is not building. So when we're looking at building power, the starting point is actually very simple. You meet people, new people, you work with them to meet a need that is meaningful to them and is also something that you can do something about. And when you do that, it's astonishing how quickly your circle of influence expands. Again, you're not going to know ahead of time how, where what you're doing is going to lead. But if you're like, okay, how do we use connection, curiosity, creativity to get something done? You've got pretty good odds you're going to be going in a good direction. And in our first and second videos, we talked about this third point up here. What can you do something about? That's staying in your circle of influence, making sure you're putting your efforts into things where it will make a difference. But now we're going to pop up to that first piece up there, meeting new people. Because the thing is that you've got to find the people who you can ask to do something that's going to be useful, particularly useful. And there are a lot of options because remember that any organization, whether it's a government or a political party or school or a workplace, it's all held up by pillars of support. And it takes an enormous amount of cooperation from ordinary people for it to function. And as key people start withdrawing their support from the autocrat, that power diminishes. So this is from, actually, I think I'm standing in front of the credit. Whoop from Daniel Hunter, who's another scholar of anti-authoritarian movements. And it's really helpful to recognize that there are many different ways that people contribute to a movement. So some people might be more drawn to protecting people. Some people might be more drawn to defending civic institutions. Some people might really be into disrupt and disobey. And other people are like all over I really want to focus on building alternatives. What's going to be more attractive to people than what the authoritarian is offering? So sometimes movements get a little bit split up because they're just like, oh, there's this batch of people who is like, we're just really into disrupt and disobey, and we don't want to do these other things. And other people are the complete opposite. And so just recognizing that everyone has a role to play, and it's totally okay if people are doing different types of things. But often a bunch of what you want to look for is really a wide variety of things in terms of meeting new people who could be, useful to the movement. People who have time and either have or are willing to learn skills to do anything that's useful. And there's a wide variety of stuff. Planning events, doing e-blasts, talking to their neighbors, have lots of connections, do art. Everything's learnable. You may have people who are already phenomenal at it. And oftentimes, if you give people multiple ways to be involved, like we have people in our organization who might not be real up for door knocking, but like they will lead the art projects, and that's incredibly valuable. The other people to look for are people Trump needs to carry out his agenda. ICE agents, police, judges, prosecutors, government employees, military, anyone who, kind of like we talked about in a prior video, if he cannot get people to fill the positions, he cannot get more ICE agents to go out and deport people if people won't fill those positions, things like that. You're also looking for people who wield institutional or social power, even on a small scale, educators, business owners, people who, for example, decide whether or not to let ICE into their building. Um, Anyone who makes a choice about whether or not to police someone's gender. Teenagers deciding whether or not to graffiti hate speech on the wall. We talked about this in a prior video of just the things that ordinary people can do. And like you actually, as an ordinary person, have a huge amount of power to make the world what you want it to be or to not. Also look for unusual allies, groups that the GOP cannot win power without. groups that are normally non-political, judges, military, things like that, or anyone who has a relationship with any of these people. Saw something go by, friends don't let friends join the Gestapo, targeting ICE recruitment events, things like that. Asking people to talk to other people or connect you with other people is how networks grow. And to be very clear, like when you're trying to build a broad coalition, you're not going to roll up on people and demand that, like, you used to support Trump and you must like grovel and like, atone for your sins before, we'll have anything to do with you. No, 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 no. That is not your first ask that you're likely to get a yes to. You're looking for what's in your circle of influence. What can you ask them to do that they will most likely say yes to, that pulls them in the direction you want to go? What needs do they have? How can you work together to meet those needs? The goal is to get everyone to move one step to the left from where they are and to build the relationship that lets you ask for more. So for our exercise for this video, it's just a brainstorm. This is going to work best if you have multiple people, but what kinds of people would it be useful to have on our side? And what would you want them to do? So go ahead and take a think on that, and we'll be back for the wrap-up video.